Yeah.
So it's recording now. So if you want to like say anything horrible about someone, you'll have to say that.
I'll do what footballers do and just go on and on.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When we're ready to go live, I'll obviously let you know, and then
yeah, I'll just.
cool. So when we start, I'll let you know just before I click the button, and then I'll introduce you. If you first of all, if you just tell us a bit about yourself, your background, I don't know, some sort of fun fact, whatever you want, whatever.
Gosh, right, okay.
Don't need a fun fact. Just doing your background, and we'll just have a chat.
Yeah.
The reality is, I think we get about 40 or 50 people watch it live.
Yeah.
But then we're getting about 500 or 600 views thereafter
Oh,
for each of them. So they're not, it's not BBC News, but so there's obviously a cohort of people who are interested in them. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
A bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's great, and it promotes the project, doesn't it? Which is brilliant.
Yeah. I don't feel like it'd be good to catch up with you tomorrow. Well, that's what the whole day is going to be about. I feel like I've lost track slightly. You're motoring on with all kinds of really great stuff from what I can gather, which is good.
Yeah, it's good. Just waiting on a couple of things. I think, yeah, the website I think that'll be important once we get that.
And we just need to commission that, don't we? I think.
Yeah, just do it at home, really. And there'll probably be a couple of stages to that, to be honest, Ken. There'll be the first stage where we just get all the information, all the things that we've been doing, and just getting it down onto a website, which people can then find things out, can't they? Rather than just getting emails from me and what have you.
Yeah. And all the schools still seem really engaged, like it's positive.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, there's a couple that can't make it tomorrow, but in their emails they're saying, no, we really want to be involved. Sorry, we can't make it. Please, if you've got 10 or 15 minutes next week, can you give us a ring just to update what the meeting was about? So yeah, tomorrow will be, is it tomorrow? No, Friday. Friday will be a really interesting one, because it's kind of going through that roadmap and the next steps and what we kind of expect from everybody. So, but also we've seen in the last, couple of weeks, Ken,
I'm still listening,
some great things happening. Whether it's the project or not, but it certainly had some kind of effect on those schools, because we've seen some great stuff, whether it's with forest schools or whether it's just being active and being out and about. So it's been a catalyst, I think. The schools really getting on board with it, which is great. So we're going to share all of those. We're going to ask them to share, something that they're proud of over the last couple of weeks since the last meeting, and we'll listen to that. And then it's kind of, this is the roadmap. I think the middle leadership stuff's great as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it does just inspire other activities. We were recruiting a health coach to take our complement from 1 to 2. But someone applied who's a higher level teaching assistant who really wants to get into health coaching. So we've just hired her. We don't really have the budget, but we just think it will come through. Like there'll just be work to do in schools around healthy lives and.
I think that would be so important. If we could in schools connect a health course to every school in Rosendale, just for them to pick up the phone and say, have you got 30 minutes? Have you got an afternoon? You could just come and chat to these year 5 boys or whoever. Yep. I think that will be a massive step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we've left it too long and it's cancelled on my stream now, which is annoying. So I'll just set it up again and then we'll get cracking. Because there'll be hundreds of people sat on Facebook now waiting for it to go live when we're 1 minute late. I've heard there'll be as many people watching as Line of Duty on a Sunday night.
I think, well, yeah, that is, yeah. I don't know if there'll be as many plot twists or
possibly not. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to click go live then. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of our Together We Talk podcast as part of the Rossendale Connected programme of work. And today we're joined by head teacher of Water Primary School, Chris Willan. Chris, hi and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Ken. My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Great, thank you. Just take a few minutes just to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about you and the work that you do, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, no problem. So obviously, yeah, I'm head teacher of Water Primary School. I've been head teacher there now for time flies, isn't it? 7 years I've been there now, or nearly 7 years. Before that, I was deputy head at a school in Padiham. And yeah, I've been teaching for, including Padiham, about 12 years now. Before that, I was actually a football coach at Burnley Football Club following university. That was a great experience. Was there for 4 or 5 years. Worked with some incredible people and continue to do that at the schools that I'm at the moment. So yeah, thoroughly enjoy my role, thoroughly enjoy doing the things that I'm doing. And Water Primary School is a great place to be.
Yeah, great. Well, we're going to talk a little bit today about active schools and why that's so important. And then in the second half of our podcast today, we're going to talk about a specific program that Rossendale schools are working on collaboratively to try and increase physical activity in schools. But just to kind of, in terms of a bit of a context setting, why is physical activity in schools important from your perspective?
Yeah, in my view, it is really, really important. I've obviously growing up and in my earlier roles, in my first roles of being at Burnley Football Club, sport and physical activities have played a huge part in my life, whether it's through playing football or playing cricket or playing various other sports. You can just see the benefits straight away, and I've been lucky enough to see those. In terms of physical activity within schools, certainly in my first role as deputy head at Padiham St Leonard's, that played a huge significant part in the well-being of the children in that particular school. It has so many benefits. The research and physical activity is overwhelming, and it's there for everybody to see. But not only that, in terms of children's happiness, the well-being and being at school, I think that's probably one of the first things that we think about when we're at Water is every child that walks through those doors, are they happy? Do they want to be in school? And for me, physical activity has a huge role to play within that. In terms of our school, it just helps the well-being of pupils and staff. It improves concentration. Children love participating. Behaviour is improved. And obviously there is worrying trends at the moment with regards to how much activity children and adults are currently doing. In addition, the COVID problems that we've had, so that is huge. So physical activity makes our children happier and calmer. And it's, they self-regulate their own behaviour because of it. So we know ourselves that, if we do a lesson, children's concentration depends upon their age, but 5 or 6, if they're 7 or 8, then it's usually 20 minutes. So breaking that up with a bit of physical activity is great, because then they're back to be a better concentration in the learning and things.
I think what's really interesting, we talk about, I think some of the Sport England guidance and Public Health England guidance is around kids doing 60 minutes of activity every day. And of course, families and parents have a role to play in that, but we spend such a big proportion of our time at school, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah. We did it last night. We were doing, I mentioned it to you before, we did an active break, an active lunchtime staff meeting. And actually, it was, the children are obviously in primary school for 7 years, but for 1 year of those 7 years, they're actually in break time or lunchtime. So we've got to make that as purposeful as we can, and also make use of that time. So that's important.
We've got a couple of questions that have come through from members of the public, and we encourage you to post in the comments now if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask Chris, or to talk about active schools at all. I mean, one that came through I thought was really interesting about one parent's asked, my child's uninterested in sports and doesn't really like sports, including kind of sports at school. Is there any advice you give to parents who've got children in that kind of scenario where they can help work with the school to kind of tackle that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important one, and I think one of the things that we look at water is opportunity, and making sure that we provide our children with a broad and balanced curriculum, but also broad and balanced opportunities, whether that's in breakfast club, whether that's in after school club. And I think our job as teachers or head teachers or schools is to ignite somebody's passion. So, and I think the problem we've got sometimes in school and in the wider society is not understanding the difference between sport, PE, and physical activity. So again, it's probably looking at your school's curriculum and thinking about the things that the children are doing in their PE lessons. Is it sport specific, or is it, really on the fundamentals of physical activity and the fundamentals of skill acquisition, which is really, really important. So yeah, we do a lot of work at Water in trying to ignite, just trying to find something that would ignite, if ignite somebody's passion. So it may be walking, it may be running, it may be sport specific, or it may be, forest school, outdoor education, but they're being physically active. So actually it doesn't matter. It might be karate, it might be jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So it's just I think it's just making sure that our children experience a whole wide range of opportunities and activities.
Yeah, and I think there's probably something in there as well about, if a parent's feeling like don't know how to engage my child in a more active lifestyle. And I think this particularly, as a parent of teenagers, this becomes, sometimes the challenge comes a bit later as the kids get older. It's about being confident, I suppose, to have that constructive dialogue with the school in terms of how can we work together on this. And I think, all of the schools in Rossendale, certainly that I've dealt with, would be really open and would be really keen to have that dialogue with parents about how can we work together for my child's well-being and happiness, I think. That's important. Another one that's come in is, if someone felt that their school perhaps they've got something to input in terms of school, how can parents get involved in schools? What are some of the pathways in which parents can get involved in trying to encourage their school to do things more or differently, or whatever that might be?
Yeah, I think partners. I think parents are huge partners of school, and I think that partnership between parents and school is so important. And to have that open relationship, to have that dialogue with parents is key. And I know that obviously our school, Water, but many other schools in Rossendale share the same view. So many have that open door policy, which is fantastic. And often, sometimes, it may be just a 5-minute conversation at the beginning of the day when the head teacher's on the yard at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, and just having that kind of informal chat about the things that people could participate in. But yeah, I think partnerships with parents is so important, and it's amazing the things that we've done, or the links that we've opened up just by having that 5-minute chat with a parent on the yard at 9 o'clock. And the things that our children can do, because there's many parents who are involved in many fantastic projects in Rosendale, or have fantastic careers that open things up for everybody. So yeah, it's just having that open dialogue where you can go through governors, of course, you can go through your head teacher, you can have chats with individual class teachers, that type of thing, breakfast club, after school club.
Yeah, and in terms of connecting with governors, like, are governors' contact details often on school websites and things like that?
Yeah, they should all be on the school website. Usually on our school section, there'll be a who's who there with all the governors on, and you can contact those governors. I think a really progressive step that's happening in many schools now is that a particular governor will be assigned to a particular subject, and more evidence is out there that actually we've got a health and well-being governor in most schools now. So that would be the person to look out for and have a chat with, in an informal chat, or maybe a more formal meeting.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's really useful for those parents perhaps looking to get involved a bit more. I mentioned this very briefly before we started the podcast today, but we have this little feature called Overrated and Underrated, where we put you on the spot and challenge you on things that are kind of topical around the area of discussion. And so we're talking about active schools, and the team have thrown together a few bits where we're going to ask you to decide whether you think things are overrated or underrated in terms of physical activity. So this is a bit of a fun bit. It's worth saying here that this is Chris's personal opinion on these things, and someone else might have a different view, and that's okay. We're going to put you on the spot a bit and ask you some of these questions. So let me just load this up now. Let me know, Chris, if you can see that on your screen now.
Yeah, see that. Yeah.
So first one then, mile a day. How are you feeling about mile a day?
I think this is a tough one. I think it's overrated. However, any type of activity that the children are involved in is great. The reason I'm saying I feel it's overrated is that some children will find a mile a day or running around a track off-putting, and it may be a negative effect on some children, although it's a great initiative and lots of schools are doing it, and lots of schools have put funding into tracks and things like that, which is brilliant. My only caveat to that, and why I'm saying it's overrated, is that we need to give our children a choice. So if it's the start of the day and it's a 5-10 minute thing, then let's give them a choice of doing various things, whether it's aerobics, whether it's a mile a day. Some children absolutely love it. But is there other ways that we can get our children active and try and ignite their passion? So yeah, overrated. Tough one to start with. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's about variety, isn't it? So some, like you say, good to do it sometimes, perhaps. But if it's the only thing you're doing every day, then there's a proportion of every class that's going to be disengaged with it, and actually probably re-emphasizing negative feelings about physical activity.
Exactly. I just think about my son. I know my son would absolutely hate that, because he hates running. If he had a football attached to his foot and he were doing it, then maybe that might be different.
Yeah, and my son would love to do mile a day every day, because that's his thing. So
yeah.
Okay, next one. Forest schools, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Yeah, a fantastic resource. We've had forest schools now at Kenton's Wood at Water Primary School for 6 years now, and it's been one of the greatest things that we've ever done. We're lucky enough to have, obviously a lot of it is about environments and what you've got. But yeah, when I first came to Water, we had this wonderful forest at the back, and I spoke to one of the teachers at the time, said, do we ever use this resource? Have we ever been into the forest? And she said, at that time, she said no. And from that day on, we've made sure that we've made use of this fantastic resource, because the children absolutely love it. And it's, it hits so many things, so many learning points, communication, that type of thing. Children just absolutely love it. Self-regulates the behaviour, that type of thing. Children build dens. They're around a campfire, they're socialising, they're talking about stories, they're sharing things, they're being active as well. It's so many things, and it's great. And in fact, a few weeks ago, when the restrictions were lifted for grassroots football, I run a grassroots football team. And rather than getting them straight back into training and matches and that type of thing, the very first day we did almost like a team building day at Water Primary School, where the children were involved in a day at the forest, which was absolutely fantastic. Team building, problem solving. They tried to building fires, starting fires, and building dens and playing hide and seek, and they absolutely loved it. So definitely underrated. It's great to see so many more schools actually engaging in this type of activity. It's definitely underrated.
I think one of the things that's good about Forest School, as well as many other kind of physical activities and sports, that we sometimes forget or underestimate, is the social connection, isn't it? As well, it's the interaction with other kids in a less formal environment, where you kind of, that interaction is so important for mental and emotional health as well, isn't it?
Definitely, and you learn so much. I mean, talking about that day, we could see various children being keen to engage in certain aspects of Forest School and certain activities, and it's a real eye opener to see your children being in that kind of environment, which is great.
Okay, we're going to pick up the pace a bit now. That's my fault. Playing out in bad weather.
Underrated. I'm bound to say that, being at school called Water, but yeah, underrated. Get them out, get them in the outdoors, whatever the weather.
Agreed. School sports day.
Overrated. One day a week, one day a year. It should be one day a week, really. Over competitive sometimes as well. Sometimes schools leave it to the last couple of days in the summer term, and then often that day it's raining and it's cold off, and then children don't even get it in the end of it. So yeah, definitely overrated.
School sports competitions.
This is a tough one, because I think there's always a space for competition, and there should always be a space for competition in my view. But I think, certainly primary school age, it's about participation and making sure that every child has got the opportunity to compete or take part in festivals without that added pressure of competition.
I think when you move in, I agree. I think there's some of the plus sides as well. Like, I think kids can get a real sense of pride from representing their school in some of these in-school, which I think forges really positive memories. I think the other thing that's interesting for me is when they move to high school, physical activity almost moves exclusively to competition, where you're either in the team, in which case you're probably in the football and the basketball and the cricket and the rugby team, and there's 20 kids out of 200 who are active all the time, and the opportunity for the rest is nil or close to nil. And I think there's something that we need to work out there. Right, unstructured play at play times, just letting kids play.
Yeah, this is another tough one. I would say that's underrated, really. I mean, it's important to have structure within your play times, and it's something that we do a lot at our school. However, it's nice to have that unstructured play for children to socialise, communicate, and come up with their own games and problem solving and that type of thing. And I think that's definitely underrated, and something that we need to probably not structure but facilitate better in schools and at break time.
Yeah. Schools, clubs, the links with sports clubs and having people coming in from sports clubs.
Now, because it's Edison and he's got a Man City shirt on, I would say, and I'm a big City fan, I would say that's underrated, but actually no. Yeah, I think, again, it's a tough one, is that, because it's got a place. It's got a place. School, club links, opportunities, that type of thing. Again, it goes back to my earlier point about igniting somebody's passion. Children do love Burnley Football Club coming in, they see the badge, they get excited about it. And again, it comes to this point about what you said, choice, about opportunity, about things being broad. So we tend to, sorry, I'm taking a long time over this, aren't I? But opportunities, and in the curriculum as a whole at Water Primary School, we do quite a bit in terms of hope days, so that they get immersed into the topic, whether it's history, whether it's geography, that type of thing. So we do a hook day. But my view is always, why can't we do that in PE? Why can't we do that with physical activity, so we give them an ambition and something to aspire to. So in terms of the hook days for PE and physical activity that we've done at Water, we've taken our children to Wimbledon, which was an amazing experience and an event, and our children absolutely loved it. And if we got one tennis player who went out at the weekend and played tennis with his dad or his mum because of that, then that's a winner in my view. We played half time at Burnley Football Club in a Man City versus Burnley game on Sky, and we were on the telly. And again, that's something that children will always remember, and it's those valuable. I think primary school's about that, isn't it? Primary school's about opportunities and memories, and having those memories that last a lifetime. And those types of things, I think, are really worthwhile.
And knowing that those memories last a lifetime is why it's so important that we get this right. In some of our work with adults around physical activity, many of, this is anecdotal, don't have the stats, but many of them will look back at their memories of physical activity at school, at being stood outside in the rain on the touchline, not being joined in, or being forced to run lap after lap after lap of the school field, or whatever it is. And they harken back to that as the reason why physical activity is just not on their agenda at all now.
Yeah.
So those memories, we need to be creating positive associations with activity for kids.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're right the way through primary school to secondary school, and having that transition at really important points like year 6, year 7 transition, year 7, 8 transition. So yeah, just positive memories and
good stuff. Go on.
No, I was just going to say as well, it's that point of when we think about schools, that our staff have those positive memories of being in school in terms of physical activities, because that's quite difficult to change, isn't it? And then we are the role models for our children in our school.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it's hard to fake it, isn't it? To be positive about activity when really inside, like, you think that's hard. And so it's just important, I think, for all of us to try and find that positive connection with activity, because it's such an important ingredient within our overall well-being. And I suppose just to move it on, I guess that's one of the, you and I have been working a little bit together, and you're taking a real lead now in terms of trying to develop a network of active schools right across Rossendale, and a co-supporting structure where schools can work together. Just tell us a bit about that project that you're working on, and what we're hoping to kind of see in the future from that.
Yeah, it's a really exciting project, and I'm really lucky to obviously working with yourself, Ken, and many other great people in our team. So yeah, the premise is to build a network of physically active schools within Rossendale. Now, the great thing about Rossendale is that there's some great things that's going on in every school. And that was kind of the start of the project, wasn't it, really, Ken? That actually there's some fantastic things happening within our schools, but almost in sort of isolation. Some great strengths in terms of outdoor education, or some great high quality PE going on in another school, and that type of thing. And the idea was that we wanted all the schools to connect and to collaborate. And in terms of schools, we do a lot of that, whether it's with reading, that's with maths or phonics and that type of thing, and writing. We do a lot of that, but actually we don't do enough for sharing and celebrating the physical activity and well-being and health parts of our curriculum. So that was the start of it, really. Let's kind of listen to all the schools in Rossendale, whether they're secondary schools, whether they're nursery schools. Let's find out what's happening in each of our schools, and then can we learn from each other? Can we share? And I think it's been a really promising start to what I think is a wonderful project, and I'm really excited by it, and a lot of work has gone into it already. We've had a launch and connected with about 35, 36 schools in Rosendale already, which is great, and really positive feedback on that. And now we're almost at the next stages as kind of what do we do next once we've shared and we've collaborated and we've connected. But it's a really exciting project. And obviously we've got Rosendale School Sports Partnership. We've got our local GP, Dr. Emma Gladwin-Field, who's on our team as well. And then we've got the Together and Active Future team, which is involved. So there's lots of great people. Emily as well from Edge Hill University. So yeah, we've got a great team, great network of people, and it's just really, really exciting.
What are you hoping for, I guess, that will come out of it? What's the aspiration over the next year, 2, 3, 4 years for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many exciting things, and it's sometimes it's really difficult when we have our meetings and ideas are going here, there, and everywhere. And we want to do this, and almost we want to kind of change the world in a couple of weeks, which is not going to happen, which is really, really difficult. But obviously, before COVID, the health statistics locally in Rosendale were not great. After COVID, it's even worse. So it's something that we've got to do, and we've got to do as much as we can in terms of sharing with other schools. So yeah, hopefully it's just that every school has a whole school approach to physical activity, health and well-being. So there's some fantastic things that are going on. You know, the Rosendale Leisure Trust and Nathan's team at the Rosendale School Sports Partnership, things like that, which are brilliant. And there are interventions really, which is fantastic. But it's about that whole school approach. So, you know, for me, reading is massive because that opens so many doors to so many things. Reading is important. But I also feel that physical activity, health and well-being should sit alongside reading because it's that important. So in Water Primary School, physical activity, PE, health, well-being is at the start of many, many things that we do. So that's our vision. And everything we do has that whole school approach. And I think that is the key. If we can get, you know, all schools in Rosendale with a whole school approach that's got a physical activity policy, that's got physical activity in the school development plan and something that they're working on, that governors are really interested in and invested in, and they've got, you know, they've got a role to play in that. And actually, our children have got fantastic experiences when they go to primary school and high school in terms of physical activity, and they've got these memories, but they're moving more. And at the moment, you know, some of our day or most of our day, people, adults, children, we sat down too much. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of opening that up and thinking, how can we get our children moving more? And at different aspects of the school, like you said, that, you know, our children spend the most time at school, but also they spend the most time at school sat down as well. So in which parts of the school day can we get our children to move more? And it's thinking about, right, okay, if we could add an extra 2 minutes into every segment of the school day of being physically active. I mean, don't forget the recommended figure is 60 minutes, isn't it, from Public Health England, that our children should be moving daily. So can we get to that 60 minutes? Can every school get to that 60 minutes every day? And, you know, not just PE lessons, but actually, you know, the start of the day, active breaks, active lunch times, after school clubs. You know, in maths, why can't we be moving about to learn maths? Why can't we do our times tables running around in the yard? Why can't we do active phonics, that type of thing? And it's really getting that focus for all schools, you know, because like I said, there's some brilliant stuff going on.
Yeah, I think it is about that. I love that kind of whole school approach, you know, every element of whether it's senior leadership down to through to, you know, those who are working with kids at playtimes and everything in between. How do we take this collective view of giving health and well-being of our kids the same level of priority as, you know, those core subjects, your maths and English, as safeguarding and protecting our kids to make sure that they're safe and well looked after? How do we raise the profile so that it's not it's not the inconvenient PE where it's really hard to get the kids changed and it's just a hassle, which I know it must be for teachers sometimes to be like, this is just really hard work.
Yeah.
How do we change that culture so that it's just embedded into all of the school life?
And I think that is the key, and it's the key to our project really, is that whole school approach, because physical activity, health and well-being, and having that as a priority in your curriculum in your school has so many more benefits. You know, in terms of well-being for staff, well-being for pupils, children being happy, which is really important. If children aren't happy, they're not going to learn, they're not going to concentrate. So you know, behavior improves, attendance improves. And at Water Primary School, although it's not the, you know, there's so many factors to what makes attainment and achievement, you know, important in our school, and we've done really well in terms of that. But there is so many other factors, but you can't deny that our children being happy and actually being physically active improves the concentration, it improves the results, it improves the attainment. It has so many layers, does physical activity and health and well-being. I mean, it's also about schools taking risks. A few years ago, we decided, and it was a bit of a risk, but we decided that too much time was wasted in the curriculum in terms of PE. And we asked our children to come dressed in their PE tracksuits and trainers for their PE day. So they'd either have a full morning of PE or an afternoon of PE. And then vice versa, in the morning, if it was active, it will be active. So active phonics, active English, active maths, and then it will be there after school club. That doesn't to say we don't do anything else during the rest of the week. We do. They have forest schools as well, that type of thing, active breaks. But that was a real turning point. So they've got also the element of belonging to a school. So they've got the water tracksuits, they've got the badge there. They love their PE days. They can't wait. Our attendance is 100% on their PE days because they absolutely love doing it. And I think that's the ethos of our school. And that's what I wanted 7 years ago, is that when people talked about Water Primary School, they said, oh, it's that school that's brilliant at PE, that's physical activity right at the top of their agenda, health and well-being, and children are happy. And I think we've got to that point, which is great. But that's all down to having that whole school approach to physical activity, health and well-being.
Absolutely. I'm going to come back to you in a second for kind of your final thoughts as we wrap up. I mean, one of the important things for me as I look at health and well-being and sport and activity for the whole community as part of our work with Leisure Trust and the council and the NHS, is also for schools to recognise that. And I think most schools do recognise this, but schools are absolutely the heartbeat of our communities in so many different ways. And the influence that we have on young people that then is taken into our homes, into our clubs, into our community centres, into our churches, into schools working together can change the whole perception and outcome of our society within Rossendale. And a focus on health and well-being can have ripple effects not only within the children's lives, but in their parents, their siblings, their grandmas and granddads, their aunties and uncles, and that has a ripple effect into our whole society. And so I think that's what's really exciting for me, that more than anything else that I know of within Rossendale, schools they're the one of the foundational pieces of our communities, and that's really exciting. That if we can help schools to raise the profile and the priority of health and well-being and activity, then we can see that then rippling through all of our communities. But I think that's probably my final thought. I'm going to hand over to you, Chris, to kind of key thought or final thought from you, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I just touch on that really. The schools being part of their communities is huge, really, and involving all stakeholders of the school, whether that's governors, parents, children, staff, and almost being one big family that puts the community right at the heart of everything that we do. And I think values go a long way with that. And schools concentrating on those values which are important, and also schools really concentrating on what's important to their community, what the needs of their children, the needs of their parents. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter about Ofsted. We don't do anything for Ofsted, that type of thing. It's not, we do it for our children. We do it for our community. I think that's really, really important. And then I think a great thing that I always love, and I think it's really important, something that we've not been able to do because of the restrictions, but is involve parents in school. And I think that has been a real tragedy of all of this, is the kind of the isolation bit of not having parents in school, being able to do trips in and trips out and things. There's been the positive side where we've actually come together as a community, albeit virtually, but it's been a difficult time, and actually the support from parents has been brilliant, and I think parents would say that vice versa as well, so that's great. But yeah, and I think we'd love to get back to doing our after school clubs, which involve families, which involve parents, so cooking clubs with our parents and children, and being together to do that type of thing, fitness, and then cooking a healthy meal. That'd be great. Going on a family walk on a Friday, right? That's our Friday after school club. We're going to do some activities in the forest with your all families, everybody. Doesn't matter what year, siblings, that type of thing. So that's something that we really missed, and we can't wait to get back to. But yeah,
brilliant. Well, Chris, I've loved chatting with you. Very inspiring, and I'm super excited to kind of be involved and see what happens over the next few months and years with this collaborative project of schools connecting in Rossendale, and prioritising health and wellbeing activity. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. If anyone's got any questions or comments for Chris, if you drop them on the comments within Facebook, we can get back to you on those things. But thanks again, Chris, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Pleasure.